Okay, we're going live. We're going live here in YouTube as well. Welcome, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. Okay, all right. Okay, how about this? Maybe this. Okay. Wait for a while, sir. And why is that? Aputsa has a question here. A comment. He's saying wait for a while. Well, anyways, I'll wait for you, but let me do a little bit of introduction about myself here, okay? By the way, I would just like to send some of my invitations to some of my friends here, okay, who's on Facebook and WhatsApp. So just hold on, okay? Okay, hold on. Just one sec, guys. I'm sharing all the videos here to my friends. Okay, let's put in my status here as well. And let's put it on Facebook. All right. Podcast 14. Number 14. Oh, come on. Okay, all right. I hope everyone's doing well. Okay. So, guys, we have somebody here from Facebook Live here. Her name is Sangjam Naro. Hello, nice to see you here. Okay. Good evening, folks. So, this is my 14 podcast. So basically, what I do is I come online. Depends on when I come. I haven't set a particular time or a date whenever I come online, but I usually come twice. I've been coming around twice a week, I think. But I've heard some folks have been telling me that I should come like once a week because once or twice. But let me know what you guys think. If you guys have any questions, please, or any topics that you guys want to talk about, please send in your request through email or comments. I'll be most happy to do my research and we can talk about it. Okay. All right, so we have about 100 plus viewers here in Bigo. So guys, I'm doing my two camera podcast here. One is in my app on my phone, and one is here in Facebook and in YouTube as well. Sorry, Facebook. I'll probably just send in the link. So, anyways, we have a couple of people online here already. Let's see, Pong Pong. Okay, we have Aputsa as well. We have Chi. We have Mac Fluffy. We have Lidin, and we have a bunch of people. So somebody asked me, Aputsa asked me, what's your Facebook name? So my Facebook name is Jungshi, Jungshi 8. So you'll see me. I'm wearing a cowboy hat, so it won't be very difficult for you to point it out. Okay. So, guys, it's really nice to meet you. So, this is my 14th podcast, and I hope you guys will enjoy this. And please feel free to comment, say anything that you want, so that we can discuss and debate, and we'll see who is right and who is wrong, and we can correct ourselves, and maybe we can share our own stories, we can share our own comments and views, and maybe we can try to find a solution. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so guys, we have Bulu Tulu here as well. Yes, so welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome. Okay. So at this juncture, when we're so much bombarded with the whole coronavirus, COVID-19, aka Um, there's a lot of people in the international platform, particularly leaders and administrations, who have come up with certain terms which are deemed to be a little racist, I would say. For example, we have Donald Trump, who came out openly saying that it's not coronavirus anymore, but it's a Chinese virus. And as you all know, it seems to be a little controversial if you think about, the name and the term of it, because it is directly uh, putting some group of people, under scrutiny. So the United Nations, and I think the United Nations, and I know for a fact that the World Health Organization came out. They sort of had a discussion and said everybody came into the board and said, this is not the right term for it, because if you look at what happened during the swine flu, which came out from North America as well, they were saying they didn't use it as a North American flu or virus. Neither they used Ebola in terms of say for example a particular country in Africa. So I think we are facing this whole crisis in the international platform per se. But okay, guys, so we have some comments here. So Bulu Tulu says, yeah, I assume to be kind of controversial. Yes. Who meeting did held in month of January, right? Yes, and I think even recently during March, I think it was March. If I'm not mistaken, Donald Trump's first tweet was on March 14 or 15 or something around that week. He came out openly in the public saying it's a Chinese virus, but. Anyways, a lot of countries they don't agree on it, and so by the way, in China at least, there's in Wuhan particularly, it's been many days that it's been zero casualties for zero victims of coronavirus. And I know for a fact that there's a couple of schools and towns that have been open in China where people have started their life already. But despite the fact, I think we're seeing very uncertain times for some places in Europe as well, which is in Spain, Italy, and also India as well, especially in the metropolitan areas. There seems to be kind of a risk, and it's not a good thing, right? Because we have a lot of people in India. So guess the infected was mostly of European areas. Yes, I guess so. I guess, here's a very, very modest approach, but also a very straightforward approach to finding your own research and trying to find the common ground from all the media that has been blaring out is that, just go into the academic research. If you're a doctorate major, if you're studying doctor or nursing, just Google coronavirus, and you'll get some hits, and you'll probably learn a little bit more about that. We have a comment here in Google Live here. So Sungjam Nara says, "What do you have to say about racism towards Northeast that are scattered in India?" Okay, let's delve right into it. Okay, guys. So here's the reason why I actually wanted to do my podcast tonight is the racism that has been faced in Northeast among Northeast people for a very long time in India particularly, and I know like it is very personal for everybody, and I'll try to use a lot of examples and also some of my researches that I've been doing for a couple of for the past the whole day, so that we sort of come to a conclusion and sort of we don't want to point out everybody here, but we'll just try to find some solutions here. So guys, I read an article here, by the way. I read an article here. So this article is written on the 25th of March by Simran Siru. Okay. So guys, this is the article here. Okay. Okay. So basically, this article titles the title of the article is "Beaten, Abused, Spat on: People from Northeast India Racist Slurs Amid Coronavirus Panic." So people from Northeast have been targeted basically because of the whole coronavirus recently, and it's becoming very prominent. And I actually want to speak about it, because we have a lot of viewers from India as well, and I would say majority of the viewers are from India because the population is more, so the ratio is very less for Northeast. But nevertheless, I definitely want to speak about the the views of racism in India against Northeast part of India, folks from Northeast part of India. Okay. So guys, if you didn't know, recently there's a lot of WhatsApp that has been circulating around, which is basically an issue which rose prominence on Sunday as uh, a racist attack against a Manipuri woman who had been spat on and called Corona by a middle-aged man. Okay, he was 40 years old, and which went viral and sparked outrage all over northeast part of India. I'm pretty sure India as well, because I know a lot of news agencies and news platforms, kind of and online blogs and all. They came in and started to talk about it. But so this guy, so his name is Gaurav Vora, Gaurav, Vora. So imagine how many Gauravs you have, all across India. So he's one of them. So he resides in Vijayanagar in Delhi. Okay. So basically, what happened was, you know, she was, I think she was in Delhi, and some guy spat on her and pretty much called her Corona, and that's almost like a attack on somebody's privacy per se. So this is not the only case that we've been facing, especially us Northeast folks. I think we've been facing a lot. And it's not that I'm calling out like oh this is racism. Um, everything is about racism, but no, it's not. What it is an attack, physical attack. It's so basically we folks, Northeast folks. I've spoken to a couple of people, and what they say is this is natural, like slurs, calling out names, especially against women, is very natural in India, especially among the metropolitan cities. So this is nothing. It's nothing new here, but I just wanted to bring this up. Okay. So on the same night, guys, by the way, the 40-year-old man who spat on this Manipuri woman just recently, he actually, you know, I think what happened was there was a lot of cry against justice, so a lot of people came out, and I think the DC of Northwest, DCP, sorry, Delhi of Police Northwest, Vijay Arya, I think it was the DC, I think in Delhi. I think he came out and they kind of found that person, and he's I think he's in custody, I think, and he has a trial against him. But it's a good thing, at least he is there's some jurisdiction against him. Okay, so we want that kind of justice here. Okay, so by the way, so the next next couple of hours on the same night, guess what happened? On the same night, a group of Northeast students in Calcutta were allegedly attacked and beaten by their neighbors who demanded they left the premises. Okay, so this is the same day that happened. So we're talking about the whole coronavirus scaremonger thing. Okay, so in Tongu Mechia, Tongou, Mechia, okay, an employee at the Oberoi Grand Hotel in the city, said she got a call from an intern. One of the students attacked, seeking rescue as a small crowd had gathered around her house in Rajendra Prasad's colony. On so it was around her house in Rajendra Prasad colony, and the intern lived with three other women, all of them who were from Nagaland and Manipur. Okay, so it took. So according to Tongu Mechia, okay, Tongou, she says, okay, I took two male friends with me because I felt it would be unsafe for me to go alone. Crowds have already come when we arrived, and they were banging on the door. Wow, that's pretty crazy. The landlord had a problem that two males had come and escorted them out, and that's when the crowd beat them. Unquote. She also says some of the local people were even shouting that they would kill and chop the boys into pieces that night itself. Unquote. Oh wow, people actually want to do all that kind of stuff. Which is very serious, a grave crime, I would say. If you really think about it. But here's one thing that I actually wanted to come out here live is because I want people to actually kind of sit back, especially when we have this kind of time to like think with our families, think among ourselves. I want people to understand the seriousness of this, which have been going on for many years since even before 1947, where we've been objected to a lot of uh, racism and stepmotherly treatment against the Northeast people. So, and see, I have friends who are from India. Don't get me wrong; they're wonderful people, but we're actually dealing with billions of people. And we're just a minority people. And a lot of Indians would say, people from non northeast part of India would say, oh, you're part of the billion, so let's be all part of this whole billion population. Yes, I agree. There's a credibility to it, but however, you know I do have a credibility here when I argue that we are, a very small portion of the population, and you cannot call us 1 billion or whatever billions. Okay, but nevertheless, we're part of. If you think about the eight Northeast states, okay, we're part of the 2% of Indians' landmass. So come to think of it, that's actually very interesting, right? Um, but anyways, I'm going to move on here. So we have another Manipuri lady. Is that Mechia? I don't know if it's male or female. Mechia. So viewers, if you think it's a male or a female, please let me know. So Mechia, who is a Manipuri, said okay, it's a she. Okay, she ultimately had to call the Oberoi security personnel to escort them out of the premises. So she said, okay, guys, I'm just quoting from all the resources that I've gathered here. She says, as we left, the crowd was shouting, "Go Corona, go!" All we want is security from harassment like this, which can become life threatening. How can we feel safe in mainland India when our fundamental rights are threatened? Unquote, she said. I think she's very right. At the heat of all this people, like crowds of people attacking a few, people from Northeast is definitely called for, a life threatening situation. Okay. Okay, so, or let's say let's put it in a historical context. A lot of people have their own personal experiences. It could be bad, it could be good in India, in the metropolitan areas, and for there's one thing to say all the good things because you want to build a diplomatic relation among your peers, among your companies, among your communities or whatever, but there's another thing to say that, we do face this kind of abuse and racism every day to day of our lives when we're here in India. And, uh, the funny thing is a lot of, media, there's a lot of research that has been going on in this subject. The media, the political, you know, uh, platform, people in the leadership positions, or all kinds of blogs and everything, who are involved in this reporting of India, and who's in the narrative of this new India. They haven't been kind of reporting much, but recently, well, there has been kind of like a narrative that has been put about. So I think in Bombay Times, I read recently that this Mr. You know, I think his name is Mr. Chang. Uh, Sorry if I'm not mistaken. He's I think his part Chinese, was born in India, and he's in the Bollywood industry or something like that. But I feel like it's a good thing that his experiences kind of came about during this whole coronavirus, which was very called for, because despite there's so many cases of very grave crimes that has been going around in India per se. So it's a good thing. But nevertheless, okay, racism is definitely more pronounced during the coronavirus crisis here. So I kind of read this article in the print. Okay, so there's a lady here, Panzuiliu Gonmai. Okay, who is an assistant professor of English at university. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure if it's he or she, but let me just go ahead and tell us she. When I first moved to Delhi 6 years ago, okay, I was extremely conscious of the way people looked at me and treated me. Okay, and I got used to it with time. But since the pandemic broke, people's racism had become more pronounced. Okay, so we're talking about coronavirus here. So even the professor, who's a professor of English at DU, kind of came out and said, "Look, it's not getting any better, and people are being, racially, charged and affected, especially from the people from the northeast part of India." So, and also here's another one here. In March alone, there have been 2 instances where I've been called Corona to my face. Okay. The first was on Holy Day when I was taking a picture near India Gate. Okay. A boy whispered to his family, "Chinese hey, Corona hey." And their family started backing away from me. The very next day, I was walking around DU when a boy shouted Corona and fled. So this was said by Gonmai, okay? You know, welcome, Ivy. Welcome, cute boy. Welcome, Pankaj. It's nice to meet you all. So, it starts from ground up. It starts from ground up. Even kids are calling elderly professors, in certain names. And, the fact that their parents were there and the parents were acting, all, the same as the kid, instead of teaching, or instead of at least being aware of people around, it's very unfortunate that parents in India don't even think about teaching their children. That boggles me, So I would say it starts from home. Okay, part of my narrative is, and part of my argument, I would say it starts from home. But sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be from home. It could be from your family. It could be from your friends, other cousins, even TVs. And I think there's a lot of colonial mentality, a colonial narrative that has been put when we speak about scheduled tribe, ST, and you know, SC as well, where the narrative, the historical narrative, even comes along here. And I know a lot of there's a lot of researchers in India, particularly who's doing research in the northeast part of India on the topic of racism and the other. So these kind of narrative and these kind of studies kind of pop up, but nevertheless, we're facing a kind of like a demon here, which is racism during crisis, which is the crisis of coronavirus. Okay, and unfortunately, or fortunately, you could say it in both ways, that we don't necessarily look like the people from the metropolitan India per se. People like I think I spoke to you in my other podcast as well, that we have this Mongolian, East Asian look, and it doesn't resonate, at all with with the rest of the billions of Indians. So, anyways, I'm just gonna move on here. So, I was talking to you about Professor Pam Zilu Gonme from DU, who kind of came out. So here's another one here. And currently she's studying in Lady Shri Ram College in Delhi, claimed that she was targeted buying shoes on 7th of February. Okay. So I think for all safety purposes, I think she didn't put her name there. But anyways, she's from Mizoram, and this article is actually very recent. So maybe she's watching, in my podcast, or maybe she will watch in the future. I don't know. So, anyways, she says, I went to buy shoes in a market in Vasant Kunj. So I suppose, I'm not sure. I don't think I've been to Vasant Kunj, but anyways, when 2 or 3 people entered, I was wearing a mask, and when they saw me, they coughed and they said "Corona" between their coughs. So okay, so this was a student from Mizoram who went to the metropolitan cities to study, like many of us. So these are very subtle things that kind of disturb our peace as we live in this country. We have another comment here. So we have a comment from Sungjum Naro. Before the fools say Chinese, hey Corona, hey, he or she should know that the whole world economy will collapse without Chinese supply from A to Z. Well, yeah, I don't have much to say. I think that's a valid argument. But anyways, I'm going to move on here. So this whole coronavirus and this whole racism that has been perpetuated against Northeast people of India by the majority people of India, especially in the metropolitan cities, is a dire concern. And actually, one of the biggest concern is, okay, there's a lot of cases against men. I'll be talking a little bit about what happened in the past as well, like Tanya, for example, Nido Tanya from Arunachal, who got killed. But for the narrative purposes, I want to point out that women are more vulnerable to this kind of attacks, day-to-day attacks in India. And, so we have, yes, welcome, Noklin Jamir, Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo to you as well. Good to see you here. So, so women are more vulnerable to attacks in India, especially against Northeast folks. And yes, there's a certain degree of racism against foreigners as well who come to India, and not just foreigners, but it could be people from different diverse backgrounds as well. But nevertheless, let's just focus on on the northeast part of India. So, anyways, Elena Golme, who is a lawyer and activist who runs the Northeast Support Center and Helpline. So, guys, if anybody of you are watching live, if you're in parts of the cities, and I don't know if you're Northeast as well, or if you plan to go back after this whole crisis, So her name is Elena Goldman. Okay, she is an advocate. She's a lawyer and activist who runs the Northeast Support Center and Helpline. Okay, I'm just gonna write this down here. Northeast Support Center and Helpline. Okay, so that's the helpline there. She said that since the pandemic broke out, okay, which is the coronavirus, she has received over twice the usual number of complaints and cases regarding racism. So she says again, I used to get maybe one or two cases a week before this whole thing. Okay, now I'm getting 4 to 5 calls and messages a day. Okay, so it's risen up to about 4 to 5 calls per day. So she also told the print. Okay, the print is like a media. Okay, a media. I think it's an online magazine or uh, online like an online news media channel. Okay, so she said to the print, she started the helpline in 2007 as a way to help people facing discrimination and connect them with volunteers and resources for legal resource. We have a comment from Naklan Jameer. India needs to clean up their house before blaming other countries. Well, yes, I think you're right, and I don't disagree. I think that's a very commendable comment. Okay. So, anyways, we have a lot of people who join in here. Okay, by the way, we have Sharma, we have Pong Pong again, we have JIV, Neo Liu, we have Tua, we have Bliss again. Welcome, Bliss. Nice to meet you here. We have Prince, we have Sola Naro, we have yeah. Okay, so quite a lot of people, I would say. Pretty sure it's 100 plus. But anyways, Northeast women are more vulnerable to racial attacks. Okay, so I'm just going to do some, do some of my rants, not just rants, but my research. Point out some of my research on Northeast women who are more vulnerable to attacks in India as well. Okay, so this lawyer, she says, when it comes to racial abuse, both men and women are faced with it, but women are more vulnerable. See? Because perpetrators feel they can get away with it without getting into a fight. Of all the calls and complaints I've received, okay, about 60% come from women, she said. So, so there's like a 60% more women than men who are sending on complaints to her because of racial abuse and name calling and all that stuff. So this is a life and death situation every day we face as Northeast folks, and I think it's a good time for us to kind of sit back and really talk about it and think about it and discuss and debate and comment. You see, because if you're numb and if you don't talk about it, I think the narrative of the Indian media, political spectrum, and even the politicians, they won't call it out. They'll just let it go as they used to before. Okay. So since March 3rd March, Delhi Special Police Unit for Northeast Region, so SPUNER, that's a long name, has recorded a total of 10 cases of racial discrimination related to coronavirus, 7 of which were filed by women. So, guys, this is since 3rd March. So imagine today is 27th March. So guess how many cases they must be receiving every day. So okay, we have Hazel here, we have Mike, we have Chiron Dalu. Okay, nice to meet you. All right, okay. So we have another person here, okay, who's from Lady Sri Ram College. Okay, I don't know if. So we have a question from Hazel. I thought you were Korean. Man, thank you very much. I think we all get that if you're particularly in the metropolitan areas in India. They'll say they're Korean or Japanese or Filipino, Malaysian, etc., etc. But no, I'm from. So basically, I'm from a state called Nagaland. We're all part of the sister states per se, 8 sister states, and yeah, I think you're from here as well. I think you're from the northeast part of India. But anyways, that's thank you for your comment. Okay, so we have a person. Okay, okay, she's from Nagaland as well. That's good to know. Good to know. We have a lot of folks from northeast here as well. So guys, we have a person here. Her name is Ning Gai Liu Pame. Okay, a 20-year-old Manipuri student at Lady Shri Ram College said while she was shopping at Sarojini Nagar Market one day. Guys, I think you guys know where Sarojini Nagar Market. Uh, okay, so one day when she was shopping, a woman and her daughter covered their mouths while walking past her. When they walked past me, they covered their mouths, and mother told her small daughter to stay away from me. Unquote. So isn't that very unfortunate? But yes, there are a lot of Asians, particularly who is from the East Asian diaspora per se, who look like the East Asian, you know, um, racial or ethnic background. There's kind of like we face a very global problem here, which seems to be stemmed from a lot of xenophobia, a lot of racism from the higher echelons per se. Let me just put it that way. And it's not just people. There's a lot of actors that is involved in this. But anyways, I think what I want to say is just keep strong. And there's a lot of people you'll come by who have good intentions per se. So we have a comment from Hazel here, followed by Kuribi. No, okay, I will. Yes, Hazel, I'm talking about Northeast people who are being racially discriminated in India, particularly during the coronavirus epidemic here, and how we should go about talking about this, and we'll try to find some solutions. Okay. All right. So yeah, the lady from Lady Shriram College actually she faced racism by her very fellow citizens, which is very sad. And I think a lot of people are experiencing the same thing as well. And I feel for you, I feel for you. But anyways, so there's this additional commissioner of the Delhi Special Police Unit for the Northeast region. His name is Hibu Tamam. Okay. He said the cases are not properly addressed because police officers on ground are not aware of what sections under the Indian Penal Code can be used to file a complaint. So there's kind of they don't have that proper mechanism, okay, where they can pinpoint exactly where they need to fight the case about. So I know a lot of there's a lot of people in this podcast here who have studied law, so you might have a better idea on that. But anyways, I think what he pointed out was so there's usually women who file a complaint under 519, excuse me, like for example bad words, gestures, or act intended to insult the modesty of a woman. So that's under 509. Okay. But there's no section of law that specifically addresses racist remarks. Okay. Which is kind of interesting. So he also says there's a proposal to include incitement to hatred as section 153C, which is basically on hatred. So If you any of you are lawyers here who are practicing or planning to become a lawyer, maybe you might have some better ideas. Okay, so it's just not in Delhi or Calcutta. Um, yes. We have a comment from Samjing Naro. Thank you. I will remember 519 SEC. Yes. So the women is 519. Okay, by the way, and for hatred is 153C. Okay. So, anyways, we're facing this problem everywhere, and you know, many people would argue that the only best way to kind of curb this vice here is through education, and I agree. There's a need to educate the masses of India, but you know, my mind tells me like, for how long, like we're going to educate this billions of people, like. Each and every one of them. Most of them are not educated. Most of them don't know how to read, but still face the same problems here. And yes, education is needed. It will seep in through, I guess. But for example, even the textbooks don't even talk about Northeast history per se for so long time. Where did that go? Where did that go? Where did the history of Northeast go? There's I remember studying in the India back in the day, and I hardly saw any footnotes on Northeast India per se, and it's very unfortunate. I think there's a reason why we are facing this kind of problems here, and which is becoming more pronounced nowadays. So the rich and the poor sections of society does not matter eventually. Why? Because I'll tell you why. Because if you I've heard from somebody, okay, she said, it doesn't matter if he or she is rich or poor, or if that person uh, calls you certain names or does something wrong to you. It doesn't matter if it's from any society or any echelons of society, because of the fact that sometimes even the auto rickshaw would be, more lenient, or would have a better, broader outlook in life than somebody who's driving a Mercedes or a BMW and comes out and calls out racial slurs at you, or for example, if you go to a Gucci, a very posh, like a hotel or something like that, chances are that you will be looked down. That's what I've heard from people, and my close people. So, which is very unfortunate, because we're living at a times in this 21st century where you know we're still facing this kind of problems, and I think we need to sort of discuss. We need to kind of evaluate on this and how we can go about. See, I'm just okay. But anyways, guys, so I'm just going to point out some of the researchers. Like I said, interesting article that was published by MacDouay Ray Duncan. Okay, so his name is Duncan MacDouay Ray. MacDouay Ra. Okay, all right, sorry. The title of the article is called Introduction, Let's Stop Pretending There's No Racism in India. So this was published in London, by the Palgrave Macmillan publisher. Okay, this was published in 2015, I suppose. Okay, so this is actually a very dense research that was done by Duncan, who was, I think he did a research in India, and he came to India. He like had a lot of panels and from Northeast people who kind of gave him a lot of ideas, and he actually, I think, lived in India for quite some time to do his research. But he cites a Manipuri scholar, okay. As a Manipuri scholar, Yankom Jil, Jilangamba, okay, right. He quotes, or she quotes, okay, I'm not sure. So, how do I prove racism when a young co-passenger on the Delhi metro plays Chinese sounding music on his mobile, telling his friend that he's providing background music sneering and laughing in my direction. And what one cannot retell in the language of evidence becomes difficult to prove. Racism, so racism is most often felt, perceived like an invisible wound, difficult to articulate, to recall in the language of the law or evidence. In that sense, everybody forms of racism are more experiential rather than an objectively identifiable situation, unquote. So this is said by Duncan in his article, Let's Stop Pretending There's No Racism in India. So basically, he did this racism based on some of the attacks that people from Northeast have been facing for a long time and still are facing. What happened in 2012? Okay, so we had the Assam violence. Okay, let me just give you a little bit of historical context before I sort of delved into a little bit of a narrative on some of the things that I think is very relevant to what I'm saying here. So in July 2012, violence in the Indian state of Assam broke out, okay, with riots between Bodos and Bengali-speaking Muslims, right? The first incident was reported to have taken place on 28 July 2012. Okay, guys. So basically, during that exodus, what happened? There was the fight was between Bodos and Bengali-speaking Muslims. But the problem with the Northeast is that Assam is part of the Northeast as well. So and a lot of Assamese people, like especially from the Bodo background, they kind of look like a little bit of Mongolia or East Asian, I would say. They're a little mixed though. But anyways, despite the fact, we were. I remember reading the news that there was a lot of threats in Bangalore, especially students who were studying Bangalore and all across India. They were getting text messages, and threatening them to like get away from India, particularly from the metropolitan areas. So I believe, according to I'll say the Wikipedia, okay, it says around 30,000 people from Northeast region had fled Bangalore after attacks and threats of more attacks to come after Ramadan. So Shieto from Nagaland, Shieto, who is a resident of Bangalore, was attacked by a group of people who threatened to kill him if he did not leave the city before Ramadan. So, how ironic is it, okay, that we Northeast folks, being the only minority Christians in India, that, well, by the way, if you didn't share of land, I would say. Anyways, so Muslims, before Ramadan, most of the Muslims, I won't say all the Muslims, I know there are good people there, but, a lot of people came out. They're like, all the Northeast people, we had an exodus, everybody left the cities and metropolitan cities. And so these are not subtle racism, And now what do we have here? We have the whole of India, calling us Corona or Chinese virus or spitting on us and all that stuff. So, this is not subtle racism. We're talking on the face racism. There's like pictures and videos circulating till today, recent pictures and all that stuff. These are not rumors. These are real pictures, real videos, which have been caught by people. It's been roaming around, and it's not a subtle, it's not a small thing. It's a very serious crime, I would say. So, by the way, according to the Oxford Dictionary of Law, okay, guys, so this is Oxford. I bought this when I was in England, but by the way, I was practicing international law there. Not practicing, I was studying a little bit of international law. So, I would like to point out, if they were in England, what was the penalty, okay? What was the penalty for let's say, for our purposes here, racism, okay? You know what? Hold on. Yeah. So, so basically, in the name of the crown, okay, criminal prosecutions and indictments, they have a different procedure, okay, out there in England. But if Indians were still under the British rule, what would happen? Okay. So racist abuse. So racism is another. Racial hatred is another thing. Okay, racial hatred is another law. Racist abuse is also another. Another act here. Okay, by the way. So racist abuse, which says harassment of somebody or someone as a consequence of harassers' biased views of that person's racial origins. The Protection from Harassment Act 1997, okay, provides that offenders who make others fear for their safety can be jailed. Section 32 of the Crime and Disorder Act of 1998 creates a radically and religiously aggravated form of this offense, and offenders may receive for uh, offenses jail sentences up to 2 years, a fine, or both. Okay. So yeah, 2 years fine, or both, 2 years and a fine on both. So, just for calling out like racial slurs, you can go to jail for two years with a fine or both if it's a grave crime. Welcome, Hot Masti here. We have Roman. We have Chi again. We have LLM. Oh, we have LLM here. Okay. We have Chandan Kumar. We have See You Again host. Okay. Okay, well, welcome, guys. All right. So yeah, we have the whole Assam violence. Okay, so this is a very grave crime. So after that, we have Nido Tanyam, who died on 29 January 2014. I remember watching the news, by the way. I felt very sad because, according to reports and relatives, they said he had an altercation with the shopkeepers in Lajpat Nagar in South Delhi, because they made kind of fun of his hairstyle. So I think he, obviously as a young boy, I think he got a little pissed. So I think following which, okay, so basically it was at a sweet shop. Okay, they began mocking him. Nido responded by breaking a glass door at the sweet shop. Okay, and the incident escalated. The accused are, by the way, so the people who killed him, okay, accused, okay, but I guess they're criminals now because he's no more, unfortunately. Are Farman, who is 22 years old, Akram, who is 27 years old, and Pawan, 27 years old, who are in their 20s and run a Rajasthan paneer shop. So they were probably Rajasthanis, okay. So, anyways, it's very unfortunate that just because of your hair, people can mock you, and which kind of leads to death. So, it's very sad. So, what is the aftermath? Okay, I feel like maybe I should talk about the aftermath of Nido's case here. So, because I think it's important that whatever is happening today, like for example, the girl got spat because she looked differently, and you know. So, and also the Mizo women, and bunch of women who are calling out, the advocate in Delhi and other parts of metropolitan cities during the coronavirus. Should be an aftermath. And I think this is important that we should talk about. So, in the wake of the incident, okay, we were talking about. Okay, so by the way, we have a comment here. Oh, come on. Okay, all right. Sorry about that. That was a personal message. So there were 7 advocates from Northeast who were paneled by the Delhi State Legal Service Authority to provide free legal services. So we have free legal services. Okay, that was implemented. Second was the Bezrawa Committee, BEZBARUAH Committee. headed by MP Bezarua. Come on, you gotta put an easy name for that man. Who was a member of the Northeast Council. So they set up that, which was a committee that was mandated to listen to people, and because he was there in the panel as well, with many other researchers from the northeast part of India during the Nido affair. So this guy Duncan, who was, is a foreigner, he said this committee, Bez Barua Committee, of identifying issues facing Northeast communities. Okay, basically, they're proposing measures how to tackle, the problems that we're facing in Northeast India. So we have some. Welcome, Elsa. Nice to meet you here. Welcome, Yang. Welcome, Mr. Unknown, Mr. Raz, Sezi Kape Ate Kup, Rizwan. We have Rian Jyoti. We have Toshi. Nice to meet you, everybody. Appreciate it. Yes, you're welcome, Nesla. It's nice to see you again. So we're talking about, the aftermath of coronavirus and the beforemath, and also how we Northeast folks have been facing racism in India, and how we should talk about and try to find solutions. Okay. So yeah, I think the whole committee that was after the aftermath of Nido's case, the India Legal Service Authority came out and saying, okay, look, we'll give you some kind of a committee where you can implement certain and voice out your opinions and concerns for the Northeast people. But the problem is it's mostly men. So I would advocate that there should be women who should be involved. There should be women who also needs to be involved in policy making and research, being part of the research team as well, and et cetera, et cetera. I think it's very important that we should have women in even political power as well. For example, ministers, politicians, nonprofit group, organization directors, business, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. But particularly, I think it's very important to have women in the political forefront, where they can actually make solid policies for the benefit of for them, and also for their counterparts, which is lacking in India per se, because for heaven's sake, India has not been treating women for a very long time. Okay, and yes, I'll say it. It's very unfortunate, and the double-edged sword that Northeast women kind of face here in India is that these Indian men from the metropolitan cities, they think that, it's okay to call them names, and it's okay to molest them and rape them and all that stuff. For heaven's sake, change your mind, man. It's very, very irritating, and it's very sad and unfortunate that even in the 21st century there's so many rape cases. I also want to point out that this this is a very patriarchal country per se. Yes, it will come to the limelight. Yes, I think it will bring out about some narrative per se. But I would suggest, like, really from the ground up, really teach your men, your sons, your uncles, your husbands, especially in the metropolitan cities. You know what I'm saying? Teach your male counterparts to actually respect women, and especially women from different parts of the country, or ethnic background, because it's always good to be friends with your neighbors. Okay, and it's always good to treat your host well. But see, I cannot force you to kind of put this manners into your brain, or nor can I put it in your family's practices. But what I can tell you is, the world is watching nowadays. The world is watching, and I think yeah, there should be kind of like measures that needs to be taken to curb out this gender racism, particularly in India. Okay, so there I said it. Okay, so like Duncan and many other researchers from the West and from other parts of the world, they come to India and they kind of do this research. And by the way, the article name is called "Introduction: Let's Stop Pretending There's No Racism in India." So this is written by Duncan McDewey. Okay, and so if you look up this article, there's tons and tons of authors. And by the way, guys, most of my research and most of my talk here is primarily done by research. Okay, so I refer to footnotes, I refer to case studies and articles and journals. So it's not really out of my my narrative per se. Although I might have my own narrative. Okay, but usually it's usually academically researched. Okay, so okay, all right. So yeah, I wanted to talk about something here. Guys, please feel free to comment, ask me questions here. I hope, because I know there's a lot of people who have very personal issues here, and I'll be mindful of that, especially, women and even men from the northeast part of India who are residing in the metropolitan cities. But anyways, please feel free, okay? Let's just build it up a little bit. Okay, let's build up this narrative here. So here's an article by Noni Bala Devi, Yankum, and Mehumba Rakesh. Okay, so these are advocates for Northeast Network India. Okay, so this article was published during 2002. Okay, the article name is called "Fear of Rape: The Experience of Women in Northeast India." Unquote. Okay. So, guys, the article name is "Fear of Rape: The Experience of Women in Northeast India." I think you can find it in Google Scholar or any of the academic database, or maybe you can find Google as well, which will direct you to some of the database. So, I picked this article because one of the research that I was doing when I was planning on talking about this topic, especially with the racism during the coronavirus and a lot of cases that are ongoing and still ongoing, and I know there's a lot of Northeast folks still today are facing as we speak, and it's very unfortunate because they cannot even come home. And I also like to put a footnote here, folks from the Northeast. Okay, there's people needs to be cleaned up when they come from other parts of the country. Quarantine, okay, but that doesn't mean like you have to chase them out from the community. Okay, that doesn't mean like you have to, you know, put them as the other. Okay, that doesn't mean you have to chase them out from the community. I think what we should do is we should kind of like talk to them, and because there was a lady I think who came out on Facebook and WhatsApp and is circulating right now that she and her family I think they came from somewhere else from India, and they came from Northeast. They came to Northeast, and it was in Kohima I think in Nagaland that they were the community didn't accept them because they felt like they were having the coronavirus. So anyways, we have a um, comment here. Ivy Jerry is talking about him. Okay, Mom. Okay. All right. Yeah. So my request is, please, when you have people coming on from different parts of the states, you know that you know you have a part to play. We have a part to play, which is just make sure that they're following the right appropriate terms, not necessarily kick them out away, because that's a very inhuman thing, and that's almost hypocrisy per se. If I'm talking about the racism that we're facing all over the world, especially people of this our background, especially in India, I would say, is a very hypocritical thing. So you know, um, And I was also thinking, like, maybe people who chase him out or don't give them the right direction are those people who have probably never traveled abroad or traveled outside of their own comfort zone. So yeah, maybe they're very ignorant, and maybe down the line in future they'll realize the seriousness of it. But yeah, there's a lot of authorities, there's a lot of numbers, in newspaper and online. Okay, good night, June. Good night. I'm just gonna move on. Okay. So of course, women everywhere, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, wealth, or age, they've faced some sort of violence. Okay, but what we're talking about is violence in the northeast part of India as well. We spoke about a little bit of the violence, what happened in. Okay, good night, Mon. Good night, Mon. Yeah. So what happened during the Armed Forces Special Powers Act which was passed during 1958, okay, on 11 September. Okay, this was a problem to a lot. This is the article. Okay, this is the article. Okay, so this article is written by two, yeah, they're Manipuri advocates. Okay, so basically, they point out that there's a horror of physical assault done by armies or military personnel or for example or the Indian Air Force upon women in the northeast part of India during the past. It eliminates one's self-esteem. Okay, one's esteem. Uh, in a single act of wild sexual aggression, the victim loses her esteem forever. Not only does she suffer from the social stigmatization, but also from the mental trauma of potential pregnancy, lost virginity, possible physical injury that may render her unable to bear children, and the prospects of sexual transmitted disease such as AIDS. Okay, so a lot of people actually face this problem here, especially folks from the northeast part of India by the Indian Army and all that stuff. So there's a reason why I'm bringing this up, okay, guys. I want to bring this up is because there's a problem of discrimination against Northeast India, especially in the coronavirus, but also against women. Okay, this is a very serious problem here, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Indian, yeah, on behalf of the Northeast, diaspora, but I'm speaking, to Indian men and for Indian men as well. Okay, I think it goes in both ways. So yes, most of the men from the Indian Armed Forces, okay, who were deployed and who are deployed in the northeast part of India were strictly patriarchal societies of mainland India. Okay, so we're talking about the other non-northeast part of India, which were extremely prejudiced against women. Coupled with this, in northeast India, they enjoyed elated status as security forces. Okay, so they usually carry out, or the people who are, the evil people, go completely free as they acquire immunity from prosecution under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act of 1958. So, guys, I have this article. This is the article, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act of 1958. Okay, I have studied this quite thoroughly today, but basically, this was during the Chief Justice of India, Sudhi Rajan. Okay, basically, who was the Chief Justice of India when this law was passed? Okay. Okay, this law, the Special Arms Force Powers Act, Special Arms Force Special Powers Act. Okay, this was so a little bit of historical context. Okay, guys, the Chief Justice of India, Sudhi Rajan Das. Okay, SR Das. He was the Chief Justice of India from 1st February 1956 to 30 September 1959. Okay, so when was this passed? It was passed on 11 September 1958. So right when he was, so you guys should know that. So basically what this means, okay, this law means So if there's a little bit of, if they see suspicion, okay, like for example, helping out the military, sorry, helping out the insurgency groups, or people like who are against, you know, um, India per se, who wants freedom narrative. Okay, I know there's a lot more intelligent people on board who knows more about me, but I'm just going to talk about this particular law here. It defines, okay, armed forces means military forces and the air force operating as land forces, and includes any, okay, any, guys, you got to know, any other armed forces of the union so operating. Okay. Disturbed area means any area which is for the time being declared by notification under Section 3 to be disturbed area. Okay. Number 3, all other words, expression used herein but not defined as defined in the Air Force Act 1950 or the Army Act 1950 shall have the meaning respectively assigned to them in those acts. So basically, there's also power to declare areas to be disturbed areas and special powers of the armed forces, arrested persons to be made over the police, protection to persons acting under act. So pretty much the Army and the Air Force and any of the armed forces in India come to Northeast and they have this special power. That means they can arrest, they can kill. Okay, so why I say kill here, you got to notice. Okay, it's quite interesting. So, special powers of armed forces. Okay, by the way, so Section A, if he is of opinion that it is necessary to do so, to do for the maintenance of public order, you know, I would say she also. So we're talking about commission officer, warrant officer, or non-commissioned officer, or any of the person equivalent to the rank. Okay, so it could be she as well. Okay, she officer, yes. So they're given full power. Okay, is of the if it is of the opinion that it is necessary to do so for the maintenance of public order after giving such due warning as he may consider necessary, he or she may consider necessary, fire upon or otherwise use force, even to causing of death against any person who is acting in contravention of any law or order for the time being enforces in the disturbed area. And it goes on. Okay, so basically, we're talking about explosive substances, the use of any kind of weapon here. So even your hand. Okay, your hand is also a weapon. Okay, so it could be any weapon. So basically, what this author is saying here is that there's a lot of unreported reasons by the Indian Army that have been covered up. Of rape and torture and plundering and everything like that. So that's what the author is saying here, guys. So I'm quoting authors here. Okay, that's not necessarily what I'm, kind of, indoctrinating somebody or any kind of groups here or any kind of agenda here, but I'm just quoting people here. Okay, so I think this is very important. Course of a combing operation. So I think this was in Manipur, by the way. Okay, and also in 4th April 1998, okay, Pramo Devi, age about 27 and pregnant, was raped at gunpoint inside her own house by a soldier of 6th Battalion JK Rifle while on patrolling duty. The military court ruled that it was only a case of molestation and not rape. Oh my gosh, I don't know, this is very sick. But anyways, another case here, CRPF, Central Reserve Police Forces. Okay, guys, if you didn't know, it's a part of the police forces. Okay, they're very prevalent here in Northeast as well. Picked up 2 sisters, Laishram Bimola Devi, age 32 years, and Laishram Manisham, age 29 years old, of Pukaho Ahalup, Awang Leka, at around 11 a.m. on 14 July 1999. falsely accusing them of sheltering underground activities. So basically, yeah, okay, with iron rods and stakes and all that, it's very bad. So we have a lot of cases here. There's another girl who is Subhashini, okay, 17 years old. Oinam Subhashini Devi of Tangai Island. So she was on suspicion of helping the insurgent people. So basically, and what happened was they caught her. They used psychological pressure, and they, you know, they attacked her basically, and she, you know, she committed suicide. I don't want to talk about all this, okay, but there's some reasons why I'm kind of bringing this up here. We're at the verge of coronavirus, okay, and also we're at the verge of people who are fear mongering, saying that it is, this virus and that virus and all that stuff. And I hope that this will cool down, but the casual racism in India is very prevalent every day, and I feel sorry for the women, especially from Northeast, and maybe even foreigners as well. And I would just like to, point out that this is not the normalcy that we would want, and this is not the normalcy that anybody, any human being, would want per se. So, out of my deep concern and out of my, just my emotional, and ethical concern, I'd just like, to point out that this should not happen. Okay, and yes, a lot of people from Northeast would say, this is just a regular thing. Oh, it's just going to pass and it's going to continue on as it is. Okay. So what I propose here, okay, I spoke this in my previous podcast here as well. And by the way, I did many podcasts. In one, I spoke about women's right to join a political arena, and also, be part of the governing body and policy making. I advocated for that. Okay, this is very important. Okay, in India, and especially in Northeast India, because we have the whole 33 reservation of women in Nagaland, which was ruled by a bunch of old men who, and not just old, but the public has to be blamed as well. That when there was a 33% of reservation for women, it didn't pass, and there was a lot of chaos, unnecessary chaos. But I want to point out that we need women in the political arena. Okay, we need women in decision making. Because we also need women in the. I always say, had there been like a home minister who was a woman, she'll be better off taking care of us, as she's known for taking care of the house. So yeah, I think guys, man, we need to kind of like wake up. This is. I'm not saying this is the 21st century, but it's common sense, I would say. So, anyways, okay. I don't want to delve too much upon the experiences of women in Northeast India, because it's very, very sad. And especially the history as well. So we've Northeast folks, we always face this second class treatment. And unfortunately, this has been ongoing. It's been very pronounced and very, very serious. In this very critical times, I would say. Where we're living hundreds and hundreds of miles apart from our family, but it's the same treatment. So I'd like to kind of bring out a solution here, okay, guys. So my solution here is, yes, I'm letting this out, okay. The beans are out here. I've spoken to you about the unification of Northeast per se, okay. So unification is possible. when eight sisters come together. Okay, there's a lot of narrative. There's a lot of articles and journals and which have spoken about this whole, upcoming event eventually by the Northeast. Okay, which is independence, sovereignty, and stuff. But I disagree on that. I don't think independence and sovereignty is the right solution. Okay, but my solution here, and it's just not me, but I know there's a lot of people who have been maybe nation state, mostly North Nagaland, Meghalaya, and Mizoram. Okay, we're mostly Christians. Okay, and we go by the Christian principles. And I did speak a little bit about, Thomas Paine and John Adams, John Locke, and and the framers of the Constitution of America, who wrote the fundamental right, a unified country, which is United States of America, based on Christian principles. Okay, and human principles, right? These are genuine people who were very moderate and very serious people, and we need serious people here to form this kind of union. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an independent or sovereign, but it could be unified states. Okay, unified 8, 7 states, 6 states, or whatever. I don't mind if Assam doesn't want to join in this union. I don't mind if you know other parts of Northeast states want to join or not. That's really up to you. But I think we all need to come seriously here and think about it. I'm just pitching this idea. I'm pitching this solution here on the table, and I know a lot of people will bring this on board and maybe bring about another, maybe a better solution as well, or maybe an additional solution towards this trajectory. But anyways, I don't know what you can call unified nation or unified nation state, or so basically, if you can recall, I was talking about a trading system where we can trade among each other, and people from outside will have to pay certain taxes, and which they do actually, but it'll be more like a unified union where there are traces of German unification, there's traces of the Westphalian unification, there's traces of the European Union, and all that stuff. And there's definitely traces of the ASEAN, union here as well. So, anyways, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be here for another maybe 5 minutes. Okay. Seems like I've got a lot of viewers here already, and welcome Sahil Khan, welcome Sevi. Welcome, Abi Ken. Welcome, Grace. Aputsaw, your brother. Who's your brother? Okay. Grace, Achabal, Mikey. Okay, so you guys are talking about yourself. Okay. Okay, guys. Another minute, and I'll wrap this up. Okay. Yeah, it's there's a lot of people who are very much knowledgeable and informed regarding this topic, especially the Northeast, movement and all that stuff. But I'm still learning. I'm still researching. But the whole gender thing, I think it's very important, and how we as Northeast men and women should be aware of, and should be careful wherever you are. And I know that there's good people here as well in India who will be, welcoming. All right. Okay. Well, guys, have a good night to you in India, and have a good day, people abroad. All right. Okay.